Hey everybody, it's Kneecap here, and welcome to This Week in WoW for the week of June 10th. Before we get started, let's shout out the Patreon supporters. We have Mario Casillas, Rep Pally Rocks, Nick Rada, and Peter Burnham. Thank you guys so much for that support. Doing more and more on the Patreon. Finally got a Discord set up. But enough of that. Let's go ahead and talk about what's going on in the game for this week. This is going to be a very light episode. There's not a ton to talk about this week, unfortunately. We do have the Battleground bonus event going on, so there's a lot of PvP stuff going on. We also have the Pet Battle bonus event, which is technically PvP. It's just Pet Battle PvP. And then we also have the PvP Brawl, South Shore versus Terra Mill going on. And honestly, other than that, there's not really much happening in the game for this particular week. If you're still working on your horrific visions, for example, we have all the talents unlocked this week, well, this past week, I should say, for the horrific visions, and now we'll be back to Ogremar. So if you need all of the talents, to maybe finish off Ogremar, do 8 masks, do 5 masks, whatever. That is, I assume, going to continue to flip every week, and maybe go away or maybe not go away. I don't know if it's going to go away or not, but that will continue to flip every week. Maybe eventually they'll make them both active. I don't know, and you'll get to choose. That would be interesting. But so you do have an opportunity to do that if you need to. The Dastardly Duos, that'll be another week of that. I did a video kind of critiquing Dastardly Duos because it is not a great experience for melee. And also it's just better to do in general with a full party. And that's not really the way it was sold. That's kind of like the TLDR of that video. But you can continue to progress your Dastardly Duo stuff. You just basically have to keep doing the achievements, and then eventually you get them out, basically. So you just do the Dastardly Duos each week until you get the score or whatever that you need. So I will do that, but I'm not thrilled about it. I would say, because of the way it works. But so you'll have that. You'll have a little bit of progression there. But we've notably not really had any news either, which I thought was a little odd. Some people were speculating maybe they would talk about World of Warcraft on the Xbox showcase, because technically Xbox is the parent of Blizzard now. Xbox, owns Activision, owns Blizzard, owns whatever, right? And so, technically they could have, and they did last year. They mentioned World of Warcraft. Notably, they didn't mention anything about Blizzard, so I assume that they're just kind of holding everything for BlizzCon and not trying to put anything out before that, since they're bringing BlizzCon back. So I assume that's what's going on there. But still, notably, there just really wasn't anything happening for this particular week. And I'm sure they're working on all kinds of things for 11.2 and for Midnight and stuff like that, right? Getting that expansion ready. So while I'm sure there's stuff in the works, there was just very notably no news basically this past week whatsoever. No class tuning, no real tuning. There were some minor bug fixes and stuff like that, of course, but just nothing really to talk about, which is a little bit odd. This is the time it normally happens, but it's still a little bit odd. Whereas next week we have 11.1.7, which we get a lot of stuff and possibly a lot of stuff to talk about, and possibly a lot of bugs and possibly whatever, right? Because we have the rotation helper coming out. We have the single button thing coming out. We have the Titan belt coming out. I'll do a ret guide for that. That'll be next week, of course, though. And all that kind of stuff coming out. So we'll have some stuff coming out, but again, nothing like super major to talk about. But the fun thing will be is 11.2 will likely be revealed very soon, and that could happen this week. So 11.2, we don't know for sure what's happening in 11.2 yet. We assume it's like ethereals. We assume maybe we're going back to the mana tombs in Mythic Plus or something like that. That's what a lot of us who follow it assume, right? And but we don't know exactly what's happening in 11.2 yet, and we should get that information really soon, including maybe today, maybe this week we'll get that information for 11.2. Certainly, if not, probably next week. And that'll be pretty exciting, and definitely a lot of stuff to talk about with that. So while this week it's a little bit dry, next week seems to be a lot more promising, and they could announce 11.2 and what's going on in 11.2 this week, which would be pretty big as well. Certainly would be rather a big announcement, and a lot of people are kind of hyped for it. This season started off really, really strong, and then the turbo boost really, especially for Mythic Plus, kind of reignited things for a few weeks, And now I think people are kind of like ready for the season to be over. I think the turbo boost really ignited things. I think that was really cool and really good, more than the horrific visions, more than Dastardly Duos for sure. Um, but that was great. So yeah, for me personally, we got Muggsy down. We're progging on Mythic Gallywix. Hopefully, get that CE very soon. It's not one of the hardest M bosses by any means. So hopefully, we can get that cutting edge fairly soon and get that done. Obviously, we have all these buffs, all this extra stuff. That normal the guilds earlier didn't have. That first killed it. So it should be quite a lot easier for us than most people, right? That we kind of take our time going through this raid. But I'm still excited to get it done. This is, like I said, it is one of the easier. The raid itself wasn't hyper easy, but it is one of the easier raids because of all the extra power, because of like the bonus from doing the Galagio rep, and then of course, like I said, the turbo boost and all that kind of stuff. It has been one of the easier raids for a slow moving guild, but that's good for a slow moving guild. I'll just say that when you're a slow moving guild, it's definitely good to have some of this borrow power stuff. For those type of guilds, so that aren't going to put the time in, to do max number of pulls on each boss. We need to lower those pull numbers if possible. So yeah, that's about it for this week. Like I said, I am looking very closely for 11.2 news. That's what I expect to see kind of next. If not, maybe some tuning this week and then 11.2 news next week. But of course, there's a lot of other stuff to talk about next week as well. So a little bit more exciting episode next week, hopefully. I mentioned at the top with the Patreon, I am just doing more stuff there, trying to just put little videos out, and then an actual dedicated video for the high tier on the Patreon as well. And I made a Discord for all the members to join, so there's that too. So that's it for this one, guys. As always, I do ask you to please subscribe to the channel. It helps me a lot. If you're already a subscriber, check out that Patreon. And other than that, everybody, have a good one.